What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I'm your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub, and on this week's show, XFL and the Dome at America Center are talking. They've kind of always been talking. We'll get into that. USFL head of officiating Mike Pereira talks USFL rules, cool, and the lasers coming in 2022. We'll get to that, and so much more. So, how do you get in touch with this podcast? It's very simple. Email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record a MP3 or a video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. We actually have one this week. You can also leave us a voicemail, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Remember, we love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher, Audible Player, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can leave us a review, and definitely leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That's like the biggest one out of all of them. Really appreciate that. Plus, watch our XFL Week in Review live at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And our timeline, I have to update this, actually, because days till kickoff for the XFL is actually 389 days. 389 days till the XFL kicks off. We got the player combine in June. January 9th, 2023 is XFL training camp begins. We talked all about that last week. And then February 18th, 2023, the XFL season begins. But we have the USFL coming in the next couple of months. April 16th, we have a draft sort of kind of player meeting type thing. That's happening in February. Then March starts training camp, and April starts the season. So we'll get into all that stuff. We have some news that we're going to get to today, but it's not going to be worth anything because tomorrow the USFL will have their big announcement. We'll get into all of that. Hey, remember, if you like football, then like and subscribe to this channel. Our goal, let's try to get to 50 likes on this video. Spread the word about something other than the NFL. Lots of NFL chatter about overtime rules today versus the XFL's overtime rules versus college football overtime rules versus the CFL's overtime rules. My personal take, real quick, is I think each team should get an opportunity to score, regardless. But both games were great. I was actually at a cheer competition, and some of the dads and I were all watching the game on our phones. Not the first game with Tampa Bay against the Rams. What a great comeback! Cooper Kupp making some big catches, and all kind of freaking out on that. It was a lot of fun. And that's what the sports is. I mean, great. These weekend games were fantastic. They were a lot of fun. And football is fun. Just don't take it too seriously, as some people take sports way too seriously. But it was a lot of fun. And then, I mean, what a fantastic game last night. Are we going to get these type of games in the XFL and USFL? Hopefully. I think the players are good enough to do it, and it will be interesting to see once this all rolls out. But we'll get into the USFL stuff, the XFL stuff. We're trying something new on the chat. What's up in the chat room right now? Let's see here. We got Juices in there, Imperial Spy, Richard, Denzel, Paladin Demo. We'll talk all to those guys in a second on the stream, testing something new out, so I can not only chat with people on YouTube, but we could chat with people in Facebook and all sorts of other places. So smash the like button, give us a subscribe, and remember, if you like football, then you'll like XFL Week in Review. Definitely like that. All right, so without further ado, folks, we'll start off with the XFL news, and we got a ton of USFL interesting takes for you this week. And there's no Monday Night Football, so we have no competition. What are you watching in sports? I know the Knicks game is on, maybe. That's about it. So without further ado, folks, let's just get into the week that was the XFL. So the XFL and the Dome at America Center are talking. Well, they've kind of been talking, but we'll get to that. So Fox 2 reports that talks between the XFL league officials and the Dome at America's Center are happening. The St. Louis Battlehawks were the top franchise in the XFL 2.0 era. Kitty Ratcliffe, a name that we have seen before, president of the St. Louis Convention and Visitors Commission, tells Fox 2 that the league has been in contact with officials here, but that no agreement is in place for a return here. This was put out by a Fox 2 reporter late last week, January 18th. Now, as we've seen with the USFL talking with Birmingham, and we'll get into that, these discussions can take time. However, with the Rock's timeline of 2 or 3 weeks from now for some big announcement, the clock is ticking to get something done soon. I assume that maybe what we'll get is the television deal before we get the teams, because the television deal sort of helps the cities understand what you've got going on. We'll see. So it's safe to assume that even if there was an agreement in place, Ratcliffe wouldn't tell the media anyway. Sometimes people just ask dumb questions and they're never going to get a response. Like, they're never going to get what they want. Like, clearly she's never going to tell you. The questions need to be asked, but half the time it's like, why bother asking? Because they're not going to tell you anything. I mean, I've said all along, have you talked recently? I would want, maybe you could answer that. But the XFL has been pretty hush about what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, just remember the XFL's talk with the CFL. However, reports of the XFL and Battlehawks talking go all the way back to October of 2020. Listen, the league wants to get back in St. Louis, and it's a clear priority. The St. Louis Battlehawks would have had over 50,000 fans at the Dome for the LA Wildcats game, but that didn't happen because we all know why. And when the league shut down, the Battlehawks opened up, before the league was going to shut down, the Battlehawks opened up new seating areas in the Dome, something that we were all excited about. So the question is, will St. Louis Battlehawks team president Kurt Hunsinger and head coach Jonathan Hayes return? We will just have to wait a little bit longer. We're now in the 2-week range from when The Rock said 2 to 3 weeks. Clearly, St. Louis Battlehawks is a top priority. There's a reason why I believe the USFL has stayed away from St. Louis, because that is XFL territory. I would be absolutely stunned if the St. Louis Battlehawks did not return, giving those numbers. And I just saw Jonathan Hayes' name. He was coaching at some bowl college thing or something. So he's still out there. It'd be great to see him return and get that whole team in St. Louis back for another run with the St. Louis Battlehawks. Former Roughnecks head coach June Jones turns down the Hawaii coaching job. This was kind of an interesting thing. So nothing is ever a lock until you read the fine print. Just ask the USFL. With regards to coaching signings, former Houston Roughnecks head coach June Jones was thought to be a lock for the University of Hawaii football head coaching job until they actually started talking details. Jones was the head coach of the Rainbow Warriors from 1999 to 2007, turned that program around and was the program's all-time winningest coach. And then with the sudden resignation of former head coach Todd Graham on January 14th, that's kind of what kicked off the talks. Now, this was what happened first. Bruce Feldman saying here, June Jones is close to becoming the head coach at Hawaii again, per source. Jones, now 68, is the winningest coach in school history, blah, blah, blah. That was January 21st. Then, according to KHON2, Friday afternoon, he turned the offer and position down, sources told KHON2. Terms of UH's offer, which Jones rejected, were not disclosed. Money was not a factor in the decision, the biggest holdup being term arrangements. Well, June Jones then went to Twitter and say why he turned down the position. Quote, so I would like to comment and give my thoughts on the head football coaching job. I'm still interested in this job for the people of Hawaii, but the job offered to me today, there is no way I could accept it with the conditions offered to me. No coach in their right mind would accept dictating who can be on my staff and only 2-year contract. What recruit would come if I was here for 2 years? That's a great point. This has never been about money. It's about giving me the ability to turn our program around, not have people telling me who is on my staff and how to coach my team. Close quote. That is from June Jones on Twitter. UH Athletic Director David Matlin, released this following statement. We met with Coach Jones earlier today and unfortunately could not come to terms with the agreement for him to be our next head football coach. I understand that Jones has a lot of support on Coach Jones this past week, but he has declined our offer. I respect his decision and we need to move forward. And of course, blah, blah, blah. Then now it was Jimmy Chang, a great quarterback under June Jones. He has taken the job. Now he is the new head football coach at Hawaii. So what does this mean for June Jones and the XFL? I don't think they were ever serious offering him a 2-year deal and basically it was basically trying to bring his name in as a stopgap and then, basically install who they wanted as coach after that. But also June Jones has got to realize he's 68 years old too. How many were they thinking going to give him a 10-year deal to coach till he's 78? So who knows? They offered it to him. Maybe that was just to placate some fans so that they say, hey, we offered him a job, but he turned it down, and they moved on. I'll definitely be interesting to see how Jimmy does in Hawaii, but more importantly, does this mean June Jones is a lock? It could be in the USFL, but I think he's still an XFL guy. Could this mean June Jones has returned to the Roughnecks, or was this kind of a negotiating ploy to try to get more money out of the XFL? Who knows what goes on behind the scenes, but we do know that we would love to see June Jones back in Houston coaching the Roughnecks. All right, well, let's get into some USFL news. First up, if you didn't get a chance to, I highly recommend you check out Roy S. Johnson's article about how the USFL came to Birmingham and almost didn't. Fantastic read. It's really long, breaks down the dates when things happened, who said what. Really fascinating. You have to understand when you read this article how there's as much as fans get pissed off, a knee-jerk reaction is to say, oh, I can't believe them, they're so disorganized, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand. You also have to factor, and I figured that this was a problem, there are so many layers of approvals and convincing to get this thing to happen. It just isn't like the USFL can show up in Birmingham and say, hey, this is what we want to do. What do you think? And 2 people say yes, and then it's off to the races. It doesn't work like that. That's why this took a lot of time. And at some points, it was looking like it might not happen. We were just privy to it early on, which I guess then kind of put the pressure on the spotlight on the USFL. But they eventually came to an agreement. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited for the USFL to get involved in Birmingham, Alabama. So if you got to check this article, links are in the show notes. Definitely check it out. What's happening in Birmingham, which will be old news by the time you see this, but the USFL Birmingham Hub City announcement is set for tomorrow, which is January 25th. They sent out a thing to the media. It's all going to happen. 10:30 Central Time, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we finally get official word. The USFL playing its games in Birmingham, Alabama. Apparently they set off a bunch of things for the press in Birmingham. Reminder, if you are a fan, you are not welcome. This is for media only. This isn't a big thing for fans to show up and attend. But you got to understand, that's just, it's not planned that way. I don't know what to tell you. But this has been a long process, and you can tell from how the USFL came to Birmingham. I almost did an article from Roy S. Johnson. You can read that, then you understand why these things took so long. That being said, this week, so let's say that's what's going to happen. This is going to be dated because tomorrow we'll have the big announcement. But we need to get into some USFL coaching announcements that happened this past week. So the USFL adds Skip Holtz and Kirby Wilson to the coaching ranks. They had this big press announcement. This was kind of interesting. It was weird to say the least. We got a press release that said basically, hey, they're going to announce the 4 head coaches. Cool. We were all excited, except that it was going to be on Colin Cowherd. Thank you, Colin Cowherd, for not talking about Baker Mayfield the whole time or Aaron Rodgers the whole time. We know how we love the Fox, CNN, MSNBC newsification of sports, where it's got to be this drama thing that we need to report on and be this, I don't know, this talk news trash. I just find it so, I can't even take listening to it. They just drone on and on. I mean, I guess there's always controversies, but what? Anyways, so the USFL made this announcement. Skip Holtz, name sounds familiar. That's right, because that is Lou Holtz's son. He will be part of the Birmingham Stallions. He's a former head coach at UConn, ECU, South Florida, Louisiana Tech. 12 bowl appearances in 16 seasons, 8 conference division titles, USA Coach of the Year in 2008 and 2016. So he brings a lot of college experience and a lot of coaching experience with a good coaching tree on his resume. He is going to be the head coach at the Birmingham Stallions. That's the premier franchise in this league, and you got Holtz doing that. Kirby Wilson, he's going to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers. He had a head coaching first time. He held a position for the New York. He coached for the New England Patriots, Washington Football Team, Tampa Bay Cardinals, Steelers, Vikings, Browns, Raiders. So he was a running backs coach for a long time in the NFL. Now he gets a chance to be head coach of he also played 2 seasons in the CFL as defensive back and kick returner for the Blue Bombers and Argos. So Kirby Wilson, is now your head coach of the Pittsburgh Maulers. What makes this whole thing quite interesting was everything that happened before that. So you had the press release, which said 4 coaches. During the show, I saw at the bottom of the screen, it said Jeff Fisher on it, 240. And even Colin Cowherd mentioned Jeff Fisher as being on. That morning, USFL Bandits, my Tampa Bay Bandits, head coach Todd Haley was on a podcast where he actually, and the reason why I put this together was because he mentioned Jeff Fisher in the podcast. Now, Haley talked about, in this podcast, they talk about Antonio Brown and all that other stuff, but he said who reached out to Haley and offered him the job? He said Moose Johnson, who reached out to me, who I've always been a huge fan of and is great to be around. And they got Fox and NBC, so what more could I ask for? That's the guy who reached out to him and offered him the job in the USFL. Now, he did drop a name of a former NFL coach who was rumored to be part of the XFL in the 2.0 era, Jeff Fisher. Will Fisher be brought in as head coach in the USFL? This is what was weird. Quote, he said, a lot of good people involved, got to spend some time with old friends, Jeff Fisher, and others today. This was in context of talking about hanging out with the USFL people. So you had the Colin Cowherd announcement. 4 head coaches were going to be announced. Then at 2:40, they were going to have Jeff Fisher on. So I assumed, based on his quote about talking about Jeff Fisher, that Jeff Fisher was going to be one of the coaches. And that's the way it kind of played out. Colin Cowherd really didn't even talk about the USFL much, and they finally got to the announcement, and there was just two coaches that were announced. So did something happen with Jeff Fisher? Is he involved? We don't know. We'll have to find out. We have the big announcement on Tuesday, the 25th, when it comes to the USFL returning, having their hub city in Birmingham. It was just a very odd thing. Fans calling it sloppy. Why didn't they know that these guys were hired? I mean, we had the whole Gene Shizik thing where his name was mentioned as being a coach, and then he was like, I haven't finalized any talks with them yet. These coaches might be using other things, or maybe, a coach that they were going to get, his name got thrown in the hat for an NFL gig. We just don't know. And we'll find out later down the road. Not a great look for the USFL. Hey, they're just starting out. I'm giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens with the press conference tomorrow. They're definitely not all the bells and whistles that the XFL brought or even the AAF brought. That could be by design. We've talked about the USFL being a slow build to reach the pinnacle years from now. You don't have a lot of resources to do a lot of things, and you're very kind of short-handed at this point to save money to get to where you want to go. We will have to see. But it was a very odd thing. But you got Skip and you've got Kirby going out there. But then we also had this today on the Ticketmaster. Had a listing. The New Jersey Generals take on the Birmingham Stallions April 16th for the first USFL game. So Vanster 2000 found this bit of information, took a screenshot of it. I saw it too. Now, what this would happen, and this was Saturday at 6:30 p.m., so that would be 7:30 p.m. Eastern in my world. So as part of the USFL 2.0 era, I guess we've got to call it, the first game will be on April 16th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, when Mike Riley and his New Jersey Generals take on Skip Holtz and the hometown Birmingham Stallions. Now, as of this writing, when I wrote this, you could not purchase the tickets, but you could see the listing. It said on sale date and time are in the works. Please check back. And of course, the USFL regular season is kicking off April 16th. We know all the head coaches. Skip Holtz, Kirby Wilson were just announced. Kevin Sumlin, the Gamblers. Mike Riley, we just said. Todd Haley, my Tampa Bay Bandits. And Bart Andrews of the Philadelphia Stars. Still no word on the other coaches. We have the player selection meeting February 22nd. Training camp 21st. Then there was an update. Not too long after it hit Twitter, they took down the listing on Ticketmaster. So my thing is, keep an eye out for that leading to tomorrow. Big announcement. I think you'll see a lot of changes on their website, perhaps. A lot of changes on, maybe some tickets. We'll get some ticket ideas on Ticketmaster. I mean, April 16th is not, we're only a couple months away, like 80-something days or some 70 or 80 days from kickoff. We're really a month away from a draft. These coaches have got to put their staffs together. They're going to do it in a month. Now, a lot of these guys are able to they do this in the NFL. They get their staff. It isn't like they take 6 months to get their staff together. They get it together pretty quickly, especially during this time of year as, coaching staffs are changing and everything. Will we see an XFL coach in there? I mean, I'm interested. I think the coaching hires have been good so far, but this came out, this kind of a short leak. I would assume this makes sense. New Jersey Generals take on the Birmingham Stallions. New Jersey's got the New York market. Birmingham has to be the first game. And I hope Birmingham draws big in that stadium. They really need to. The other games I get when people don't go because their teams aren't related, but if the locals can really get behind the Birmingham Stallions and they have a great turnout for all the Birmingham games, hell, even do 2-for-1 you could do. Who knows what they're going to do with the tickets. But that's going to be the bell. That's going to be a really interesting. If they could sell out that game and the first USFL game, that would be a big get for the USFL. But we'll have to stay tuned for this week if we get more coaches announcements, plus we get the Hub City announcement. USFL head of officiating Mike Pereira was on a podcast talking about rules and lasers. That's right. So he was a guest on Green Light Podcast with Chris Long, and most of their conversations centered around a week ago's NFL playoff games. But towards the end of the interview, they talked about more about the USFL rules coming in 2022. He said, "All I know is I'm going to run the officiating. I'm on the ops call each week, and so I'm part of it. The fun part, I'm a committee of one, a rules committee almost of one." So basically, he's in charge, and that's it. Again, keeping these resources, low, and one person, and that's it. Talks about how the USFL wants to get the calls right and do things differently. He said, "Quote: We're going to do some things different. Things like you don't like that roughing." The passer call that was made, well, guess what? I'm in the replay center and I don't either, so we're going to take it off. We're going to get rid of it. You get called for a hit on a defenseless player and it's a big hit, but it's shoulder to chest and it was called. We're going to take it off. So we're going to do things different, some things that are a bit different that I can think will be good for the game. And I don't have a problem with this at all. I am always saying, just get the call right. These purists that are like, oh, you can't get away with the game. Shut up. Just get the call right. That's all we care about. We just want to get the call right, no matter who does it, whatever, and move on. You don't want your football franchise or your sports league when people are yapping about the refs and the calls. Just get it right. And if he's the de facto standard, great. Let's just do it that way. He also talks about the NFL's pass interference penalty, where one call could net a team 40 yards. Instead, the USFL can go with the college rule of 15 yards on a pass interference call. Good. Because these leagues are small and they're not the juggernaut of 32 league NFL, and as your organization grows and bigger, it gets harder to make decisions and the process slows down. That's what happened in the NFL. They can't make these quick change rules without all these people voting. The USFL can do that, and he can just make the choice. He's like, this is what we're going to do. So he said, quote, we're going to go to the college rule maximum. It's going to be 15 yards instead, unless somebody deliberately tackles a guy, like you saw in a play in the NCAA championship game. The guy got beat by the double move, grabbed the jersey, and pulled him all the way down to the ground. That's a spot foul, and it's beyond 15 yards. As far as where the USFL will get their referees, it will mostly be from the NFL's training program. He said, honestly, we've got great officials. 32 of the 35 are off the NFL's developmental list. They're a next group that will be going to the NFL, so I think it's going to be fun. Great there. That's taken care of. At the end of this discussion, they talked about the sticks never going away in the NFL. The sticks are the yard markers we see the people holding on the sidelines. But Pereira says that they might not, they'll never go away in the NFL, but they might not be part of the USFL. Quote, well, you're going to have to see some different technology in USFL. You may see the sticks go away. I'm a fan of the tradition. No, I'd love to see the 75-year-old guys out there in the middle of the field, but there is going to be lasers. We think that the actual measurement itself will probably go away. The sticks won't go away. Coming out on the middle of the field may go away. Now, I don't think that's necessarily going to be adopted by the NFL, but you will see some different technology in the USFL. Very cool there. I'm all for it. Screw the tradition. Just get it right. And whatever is the most efficient way of doing it, just do it. Just do it. I would love to see robots be referees and computer AIs call these games, because there's no arguing with the AI because it knows that it's 100% correct. But I think they would call penalties on every play. So that's kind of the problem. So when we get a kind of official USFL rule book, who knows? But Mike Pereira is the guy in charge. I'm sure he's already got it kind of laid out. They'll probably use what the Spring League used, plus some modifications that he wants to do. But it looks like the rule book, they have that pretty much covered. It's not going to be 3-down football, 4 downs. Everything else will be kind of similar. Maybe just some tweaks here and there like the XFL did. And that's it. That's your guy, Mike Pereira. Lasers and all. Love to see some new tech in the USFL. All right, we'll take a commercial, get to your chat room and the social right after this. Stay tuned, my friends.
This week on the Markcast, there will be blood at USFL football, but maybe not all the coaches. Maybe not all the coaches.
We have been shell-shocked with we were promised 4. We got 2 coaches. We are in a blood feud with Colin Cowherd and the Herd TV show, I guess, radio broadcast too. Lots of USL stuff going on. We are breaking down all the head coaches.
We've also got Mike Hohensee from a former USFL quarterback and an AFL head coach. He joins the podcast.
I think it's great. First of all, it keeps football going. I think, we talked about what the opportunities were for some of these great Hall of Fame players back in the early days. There's probably a lot of great coaches came out of that league as well. And front office people, it's just extra jobs for people out there trying to pursue their dream. Now, you got to put a good product out there. But I think you got to give it a chance. There's a lot of people out there with good ideas and aspirations, and there's plenty of unknown talent out there that's just waiting to get developed.
And then your friend of mine, Derek Dennis, formerly re-signed with the Calgary Stampeders, star offensive lineman, talking a lot about CFL business, what do we need to be doing heading into the collective bargaining agreements. Derek is just a wonderful gentleman and has lots of good thoughts on that.
Every time we hit a bargaining agreement, if you can add one thing to it, make it better, I think that helps. I think the biggest thing too, with why it's always so hard to get certain benefits from it, is because the CFL as a league has not grown in the sense of fan base, in the sense of marketing dollars, in the sense of sponsorship dollars. The game is just not growing.
We're gearing up for the USFL to make the big announcement in Birmingham about playing at that stadium. We all know it's going to happen, but they're going to make it official very soon. We're going to be talking about that. We got some CFL player news, some things I'm really excited about. One, Khalil Tate from Inglewood, always up to no good, getting a deal north of the border. I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited to crap on Kevin Sumlin. That's all coming up this week. Oh, we got one more thing, though. XFL news.
We have XFL news. We talk about The Rock's wet fart on Monday Night Football with the Manning cast. I don't know what was the bigger of a wet fart, Eli Manning or The Rock's XFL news.
Did you notice how Eli Manning had the death row gold chain on? That's ridiculous.
Terrible.
But we're going to talk about all that stuff this week on the Markcast.
All right, my friends, we're back. What's up in the chat? Juice 1984. That was a good year. Hello. Imperial Spy. Will there be a USFL draft? They will not be a televised draft from what we understand. It's going to be a 2-day where they kind of players meeting. I don't think they want to kind of have a live draft. The XFL did a draft and it was a lot of fun. But the USFL draft will kind of be more low key. I would assume that, maybe they would just come out with teams, kind of like the Spring League did. That's probably down the road for some kind of televised thing. But we'll keep an eye on with what's going on with the draft. But that is in the end of January. I think I said January, was it 22nd and 23rd? Of February. February 22nd and 23rd is the USFL draft. We'll see who gets involved with that. Richard says, I can't wait till the XFL comes back. Me too. We're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from when The Rock said something's going to happen. Did you know that our friend Danny Garcia, the co-owner, chairwoman of the XFL, posted on her Instagram that she is in New Jersey? What's important about New Jersey? Well, New Jersey is right next to New York. And New York has got Redbird Capital offices in New York City. I can talk like that because I'm actually from New York, actually from Long Island. So, Denzel Vance. So, hey, is she there sightseeing New Jersey in the middle of January? Most likely not heading to the Jersey Shore or to Atlantic City. My assumption is that she is making her way into New York City, maybe to see a play, maybe to do some business, but definitely I wouldn't be surprised if we got some XFL pictures or something, teases coming out of that, especially after Birmingham, Alabama announcement tomorrow. The XFL might not want to take a little of that thunder away and just say, hey, boys, we're here. Don't forget about the XFL. Denzel Vance says 1 or 2 weeks away from the XFL news. Yes. Imperial says, I want spring football back. XFL was just doing that even just through 5 weeks. I mean, you see about how much fan base and interest there was. There were so many people when the league had to pause and then close down because of you know what. that came to me. I cannot tell you how many messages I got. It was like, hey, I just started watching the XFL a week ago. Really loved it. I had friends go to the games. They were getting together to watch the games on television. I would get invited, and I'm like, no, I can't. I would love to come over to your house and watch, but I'm doing this website stuff trying to figure it out. Definitely would hang out more. Next time, I'll just bring my laptop and my root beers because I love root beer. And I'm serious, not regular beer, root beer. But yeah, I miss it, and I'm so excited to finally get some news. It's been a long road. I mean, we've been doing this since 2018, my friends. It's 2022. And we had the big shutdown and, the big sleep. It's funny because I was talking to folks in Disney, and one of the things Disney World folks or Disney folks talk about the what that's still occurring. They call it the big sleep because everything shut down. So that was kind of like the spring football. The big sleep is over for the XFL, and now we're kind of getting back at it. Paladin Demo says we're in a weird timeline with the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. I'm so excited about that. And I'm a Ravens fan, but I'm like, hey, I am all about, I like Joe Burrow. I think he's fantastic. And Jamar Chase is good. I think they got a good team. What the teams I wanted to see was the ones that haven't been there. So I wanted LA, I wanted Buffalo, I wanted Cincinnati, and what was the other one? Buffalo lost to Kansas City. Cincinnati Bengals won. The LA Rams won. I am totally drawing a blank on the other one. What was the other game? You guys are going to freak out on me. You're all yelling at your TVs. What was the other game? I totally missed it. I can't remember what that was. Got some spam going on here in our... let's see here. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Marcine says, hello, how are you? I'm good. Denzel Kakal, Bob G. Kakal to you, Paladin Kakal. Let's see, what else? Richard says, bring back June Jones to the XFL. Absolutely. I seen better controversies in the Blood Bowl novel, Paladin Demo says. Intelligent Savage, 629, looking forward to the XFL 2023 season. Just like 2020, I couldn't and can't wait for the Super Bowl to be over for the start of the XFL season. That is true. Yeah, that's why I think I personally think we will get announcements next week during the Pro Bowl portion of the deal there. Javier says, hey, Mark, welcome back. And we get Finn the dog yet? Yeah, he's upstairs, actually. I will have to get him on the show. I knew I said I was going to do that this week, but he is not here. He is upstairs hanging out. Paladin says USFL radio silence is hardcore, so understandable. Yeah, they've got a lot of things to work on there. Let's see. Ed says, so when is the first USFL game? April 16th, 6:30 Central Time. The New York Generals versus the Birmingham Stallions. It was on, that's right, the 49ers. Stock Speed Tech said the 49ers. How could I forget? That was also a good game. My wife was like, she does not like Green Bay. And it was like one of those things that you like talk to, your wife or whatever, and she's like, no, I hate Green Bay. And I'm like, she doesn't hate anything or anybody. But she went to this whole thing where she worked with people from the Green Bay area and just how annoying they were, and she just hated Green Bay. So she was super excited that they lost. So it was like the one thing that my wife would use, she's such an angel, that she would use the word hate. It was the Green Bay Packers. And I was like, oh, she got all fired up talking about it. So Ed, that's when the first USFL game will be. Do we get, if they got it, hey, you are a couple months away. Put your tickets online. I assume at least they'll put the first ticket online and maybe not sell the others. But those tickets have got to go on sale soon. That means we need to have a schedule. Like, let's go. You're not too far off from this season. You've got your draft is in a month. There's no schedule. So I expect things to start rolling out quickly from the USFL. Elusive Poet, I'm from New York City, and that was an awful accent. Hey, I have lived in New York since, if I have a lot of adult beverages, the New York accent comes back. But I have lived in Maryland. Well, I've been living in Maryland since the late 90s. So, Maryland, Baltimore area. So my New York accent has disappeared. I hear it when I talk to family from back home and friends back home. I can hear it. But yeah, it's not the accent that it used to be. I'm sorry. But I am from Long Island, my friend. Out in Suffolk County, Long Island is where I'm from. Marcine says, do you think the XFL will be successful in year 2 or year 3 move to 16-game schedule? I think everything is locked and loaded for the XFL to be successful. I think you need to go big if you're going to do a football league, and not. I'm not sure about I understand the USFL trickle out business model, keep it light in the beginning. I've talked to fans. I mean, you barely hear anybody talking about the USFL on on Twitter and stuff like that. You don't really hear anything when it comes to that. All right. Let's get to our social media stuff after we take this quick commercial break. Stay tuned, my friends.
What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today.
All right, my friends, we are back. Let's get to your social media stuff real quick before we wrap up the show about that USFL head of officiating Mike Pereira stuff. Kyle says, I would run the game like soccer, no stopping the clock. Get out of here. No. Jared says, never face-to-face video, just Twitter always. It seems the USFL needs more personal engagement with the fans in the future. I think that will come. There hasn't really been much, but I think it will come. Have no fear. Grant says, radical suggestion, no instant replay. Go old school and let them play it out and go with whatever the refs call and keep the game floating. No, get the call right. Michael says, didn't the USFL fail once already back in the mid-'80s? Go LA Express, not playing this time around. Matt says, put it on cable and let us hear the action on the field. The mic'd up portion of the game is always the best. I always thought I would pay extra, at least in an NBA game, to hear the trash talking from the players. Like, I would pay extra for that. Like, oh, you can get the, don't hear the commentary from the people on the side. Just hear the players talking trash to each other. I bet you it would be hilarious. Mark says, yeah, this league will last. Give it up. Okay. Not very supportive there. On to XFL and the Dome at America Center are talking. Matthew says talking about adding a third ring, I assume. Trevor says the XFL and MLS soccer, it could be if we could just get a WNBA team, we as a region will be the envy of the second-rate minor league cities. Memphis probably can't believe their bad luck. St. Louis is, Wesley says St. Louis is the first in talk, so that's a good sign. That's true. David says they would be crazy not to figure out St. Louis. This was signature 2.0 franchise. Absolutely. It would be a huge miss if they did not return. They should be. The Battlehawks had the best attendance in the XFL. Putting butts in the seats is the bottom line. Absolutely. That's how you generate a lot of your revenue as fans in the seats. Charlotte says if they can get football in St. Louis and relocate the Vipers to Orlando and the Roughnecks to San Antonio, those are 3 solid cities that are screaming for professional football. Charlotte is true there. And Keith says, hope it all works out. Still feel St. Louis is a good football town with good ownership, something we'll never have had. I would be stunned, like I said, if the XFL doesn't return to St. Louis. The Stallions, talking about Roy S. Johnson's article, fantastic. Jason says, sounds good. I enjoyed the iron of the shortened season of the AAF. Had there. Yeah, that's good too. Let's see here. On to the Instagram real quick, talking about the Battlehawks. Carrington _ Collins says, yes, thank God that stadium sits and rots. Someone use it. Somebody sent some pictures this week of tractor truck mashup going on there. DeLorean Big long name says great news, and Russell _ the truth seeker. Yeah, awesome. Go Battlehawks. Fans are excited. We knew that they would be excited about that. Again, nothing too earth-shattering because I've heard her name used before, and I've heard her talk about having talks with the XFL. She could have been referring to 2020 for all we know, but still, a good sign. And it was reported recently. All good things. I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Michael Clark said, this is at M. Clark Reports, says work being done on some of the USFL signage outside of Protective Stadium ahead of the league's announcement tomorrow. Check it out. You can see that they're working on the sign where it's got the USFL on there. It's got all the teams. Very cool. I'm excited. To go check out that stadium with me and the wife. Plan on heading out there. Maybe we should do a live show from somewhere in Birmingham. Let us know where that should be. A good pub that's got some cider beers, perhaps. Logan says, how about the last 2 coaches? When will that be announced? You're a month away from picking players. At the Soulman 57, you're basically a month away. You have to do that this week. Has to be done this week. At Pudge 301219, I feel they missed an opportunity grabbing up St. Louis. Could have used the Dome as the hub city. Talking about the USFL and Alabama. I think the XFL was like, this is our spot. You can't come. And the USFL was like, okay. But the USFL has got Houston Gamblers, and there is some rumblings that the Houston Roughnecks ain't going anywhere. That could be a lock to stay in Houston. There's been rumblings about that too, which would really be like, yo, these 2 sides are going at it. Remember, the USFL has plenty of other franchises that they could use if they would ever to merge with the XFL. And again, I don't think these 2 leagues can go head to head against each other for the next 5 years. At Reddit XFL, talking about June Jones, he said it was because of the terms. They offered him 2 years, which is not good for a college coach, IIRC. But yeah, I would not be surprised to see him return to the XFL. And Richard says, I hope he really does come back to the XFL. I am 100% agreeing with that. Oh, let's see. So Danny Garcia, do you see this in The Rock about their Project Rock partnership with the UFC? Project Rock partnership with the UFC and Under Armour. This one has been a long time in the making. We're so excited, so proud to announce that Project Rock is now official footwear partner of the UFC. Maybe I should get a Project Rock sneakers and see what that's all about. I'll pay the extra just to help the cause, help the boss, DJ. The groundbreaking partnership begins this week. So apparently the Project Rock footwear being provided to the top fighters in the world, engineered for the hardest workers in the room who walk the walk. So Project Rock, Under Armour, partnering with the UFC. That was big news a couple days ago. What does that mean about the XFL? Richard says, hell, I hope so. I can't wait to see Project Rock is doing uniforms for the XFL. If so, I'm most definitely going to buy a lot of merchandise. I can't wait. I am actually wearing right now, as you can see, I'm wearing my DC Defenders collared shirt over here. There you go, DC Defenders, and this guy. It's my guys, my teams right there. That's my teams right there. What do you think about that? On to the YouTubes. We'll get to that. Let's see. Jason M says 2 to 6 weeks, XFL news and The Rock. Yes. Chris says, what stuff you speak of? Is that XFL? I don't know what he's talking about. Who cares about Cowherd? He can be as negative as he wants on his show. That's good for you because we watch you instead of him. Thank you. Chris says, slow build seems like a super premium, high octane deluxe product. Yeah, definitely a slow build. Brian says, it sucks waiting another 13 months to see the XFL 3.0, but it's going to be exciting to watch. Looking forward to seeing what these other spring football leagues do, and I think the XFL's delay start until 2023 will be good for them to improve on what the USFL does well and learn from what they may do wrong. Absolutely, Brian, 100%. Spot on with that one. Bunch of numbers says none of this will survive in America's shrinking economy. Okay, guy. Get out of here. James Messner, you're no fun. Bunch of numbers and probably some bot somewhere. Says football and got the hands up. Intelligent Savage says, hey, Mark, here from Richmond, Virginia. All right, I'll be in Richmond in a couple weeks for stuff. I, for one, appreciate you keeping us up to date with the return of the XFL and USFL as well as the CFL. Peace and blessings to you and yours, 2021 to 2022 seasons and beyond. Intelligent Savage is very intelligent. Thank you very much. And blessings, peace and blessings to you too, my friend. We all need it during this time of going on just in general. Isaiah says, hey, Mr. Perry, hope you and your family enjoyed Orlando. I was me and the wife, no kids. Me and the wife, no kids. We had a great time. Side note, MLFB also trying to have a season this year. I have heard Major League Football is. I don't think that they will. They've said that for years, and I think their timeline is coming to a close soon, too. Tasty Meat 8675 says that's not a moose head, though. Okay, talking about there. All right, let's get to your emails. And first, we got a phone call, actually a video phone call, our first video phone call. Let's check it out.
Hello everyone, I am super excited about the XFL in 2023, this upcoming season. There's currently 8 teams in the XFL. I predict there'll be 8 more new teams in the XFL in 2023. Super excited about that. I'm excited for the football, more football in 2023. It is exciting. And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was saying that there will be some big news in 2 to 3 weeks. So some exciting news is about ready to be out there for us for new updates of what's going to happen. Maybe some new team announcements, maybe some new cities. So just got to wait 2 to 3 weeks. Super thrilled about that. Can't wait. More football. I am so excited, guys. It is going to be amazing for the love of football.
There you go. Norman checking in. Appreciate the phone call. Our first video phone caller. And you can do that too. Just email podcast@XFL News Hub. We'll play it on the show. Become famous for all of our thousands and thousands. And make sure you smash that like button. We need to get to 50 likes. Spread the word about the XFL, USFL. Spring football is out there. NFL fans have one more weekend, and then it's kind of over. Then there's the Super Bowl, but it's kind of not the same. You really can't do DraftKings for a Super Bowl. And you can do betting for Super Bowl, but then that's it. They need something else. Let them know. USFL, XFL is right around the corner, and fan control football. 16 teams, I just don't see it. I can't see them having 16 teams. That's just a lot. That would be insane. It would be so awesome if they did that. I think you're conservative. I think they're going to stick with 8. I think they might shift things around. Maybe you get 2 more. 10 would be my maximum, I think. But the XFL could just drop anything to get people fired up. I think Danny Garcia's traveled to New Jersey to get to New York to hang out with Redbird Capital and the big Hulk statue in Jerry Cardinal's office. I would love to see that statue one day. Hopefully invite me up. We'll hang. I think it's to finalize where they're going to go here and crank things up, go out to dinner and celebrate. And it's on. Maybe we get something this week, but definitely next week. And, just even dropping a little video package that says 10 teams in the XFL with little teasers, just drop those little Easter eggs everywhere, get people fired up about it and excited. And we have the USFL football too. But 16 teams is a lot, my friend. I think I would go more with 8 to 10. That would be my pick there. All right, let's go to some other messages. Appreciate the call. Norman checking in. On the USFL Birmingham announcement tomorrow, 4th and Long says USFL saved this one till after the XFL Manning Cast. The spring football PR wars are in full effect. It was stated somewhere earlier it would likely be late January for announcement, and it is definitely late January. That is true. And again, check out Roy S. Johnson's article, and you can see why it took so long. This is an old article about USFL executive and talking about the name and logo. Now, the USFL 2.0, unless we can call it something else, if you guys in the chat can want to call the USFL 2.0 something else, that's basically what it is. They, in their press release, say we have nothing to do with the USFL, the original USFL, except for the names. But then they did get Doug Flutie as part of their hyping things up. He did a video for them. So you kind of did. But I understand where they're going from, and I think there's probably a lot of legal crap around that thing. Jan, you call him Jan, he says, it would not be a bad idea if the current USFL execs reached out to former USFL players and execs as a way of celebrating the legacy of the league and using it for promotion. It can be I see it as an act of goodwill. If Brian Woods and Fox Sports were smart, they would bring in former players and executives as an act of celebration. Also, you best believe those who are part of the present could learn a lot from the past. I don't see the new USFL as being anything like the old version, but for the fans, it would be nice to see the past uniting with the present. Truly capitalize on the past and nostalgia. Many people are into the league as a way of marrying the past and present. If the new USFL is smart, they'd capitalize on the goodwill. 100% totally agree, and 100% telling you they are not going to do that. They are just not going to do that. They've said that every single press release distanced itself from the original USFL. I think it's a mistake. My assumption would be that there's a lot of legal stuff as to why, and it was just easier to just kind of cut and go. And that's why it is. Maybe one day we'll find out why they distanced themselves so much from the original. Again, we could ask the question. We'll get the PR talk, and that's going to be it. So we're not going to really get a straight answer. Kerwin says, interested in working in professional football. I have no contact, any information for anybody. Best bet, again, it always is Fan Control Football and Hub Football. And if you're a coach and you want to get involved in coaching the XFL, good luck. You need to know the coaches that get hired. There is no online thing where, hey, I want to coach in the XFL. I'm going to fill out my resume. It doesn't work like that. They're bringing in guys who know people, who are friends with friends. It's all networking in the coaching game, my friends. And finally, Jim says, hey, Mark, best stadium in the XFL is a no-brainer. Audi Field. A lot of people listening to the XFL News Hub podcast tonight. Yes, They will. Jim, Battlehawk Nation. I love Audi Field. That was a lot of fun. It would be a mistake for the XFL not to come back to St. Louis, to Seattle, and to DC. Those would be a mistake. Absolutely mistake. They'll be in Texas. Maybe Orlando doesn't get, maybe a team isn't in Florida. Florida doesn't draw that great. You already have the Tampa Bay Bandits now. That's out. Now Tom Brady is done. So who knows what's going on there. So that's it. All right, my friends. That's it for the social media stuff. Any last words from our chat room? Let's see. Somebody new. Norman says hello. The XFL is going to be a blast. Let's go. Need an Ohio team in the XFL. Denzel says, what quarterback do you think will return to the XFL? That's a tough question. It has been a long time since the XFL had since they've played. I mean, PJ Walker could be back. I think another team would pick him up. I mean, Landry Jones, he was hurt. I don't think he's coming back. I mean, if Bob Stoops doesn't come back, he's not coming back. I mean, who else? I mean, I would love to see BJ Daniels come back. I mean, look about the quarterback situation in DC. Tyree Jackson he's not coming back. Could be a stud when it comes to tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles. Cardell Jones, we've heard was that the DC defenders were kind of moving away from him and not really thinking that he was a player, even though the first 2 games he looked great. I don't know who's going to come back. I mean, Jordan Ta'amu, Taylor Heineke, he can't come back. Maybe Ta'amu comes back to St. Louis. We see. Ta'amu's young, so that could be a possibility. William Lee says XFL will be a hit, especially when they put a team in Canada and Mexico. New England needs a team, the New England Freedom. Till then, go Vipers in Orlando. All right. Cinnamon Chrisman, Coach KDK says, how does the XFL and USFL get to year 5? How does the model for growth look like? What does the model for growth look like? Well, the XFL is coming out of the gate ready to go. And it's going to be all in, and I think you'll get 8 to 10 teams, and then we'll see in year 2 if they kind of expand. There's a whole media thing behind the XFL. So it's going to be out there and big time. The USFL is going to be a slow build. There's talk of maybe finding USFL owners. There's talk about finding owners in the XFL. Perhaps I wouldn't do that for either league until you get established in year 2 or in year 3, because with more owners leads to more bottlenecks of decisions being made. But the USFL is a slow build. The XFL is going to come right out of the gate. Richard Browning says, do you think the XFL will use the 2.0 rule books for 3.0 rule books for a new season? I hope that they just stick with what worked and tweak it a little bit. Sam Schwartzstein is actually going to be on the Markcast this week. I knew I was going to mention something. So he's going to be on. My understanding is that he will not talk about the XFL 3.0 era. He will talk about the XFL in the past. So he will be on the Markcast. Love to get his take on the XFL and CFL rules and how they were different. But he will be on there talking about the rules. So I would keep the rule book the way it is with how the XFL did it. I didn't have any problems with the kickoff. Was great. All of it was good. Let's see. Rosville says, I'm hearing a lot of rush job with the USFL. It's looking a lot more like the AAF. I am a little concerned too, my friends. I'm concerned with that too. That this rush job kind of, we're going to have coaches, we're not. Colin Cowherd is doing it. Remember, at the same time, not a lot of people are paying attention. We are super nerds, and I'm seeing new names on this list, checking out the show, and I really appreciate everybody being on there. Smash that like button. Get us to 50 likes to spread the word about the USFL, XFL, and all this spring football that's upon us. But I'm a little concerned, too, with the rollout. They're just not coming out the gate as the XFL did. And the XFL, I mean, everything was really great. what they did. And there are people in the USFL that worked for the XFL, so they know how to do their thing. It's just kind of I'm sitting back and waiting and seeing what happens. But so far, we'll have the big announcement tomorrow. Then hopefully now that location is done, we can knock out these other two coaches. There's got to be coaches out there that would take those jobs. And then we can start building up to this draft happening a month from now. And finally, Intelligent Savage 629 says, was looking for my T-Rex skull, and wouldn't you know it turned up, give the XFL cone owner, Alice the Rocks. Give us great news in a few weeks. All is forgiven, Rock. Yes, you saw that skull on the Manning cast. That was, a lot of people were talking about that skull during afterwards, along with what he talked about the XFL. But that was a big buzz, was that skull. I have a Dogecoin dog, and that isn't doing very well. I got an XFL football, and actually my wife got me this. This is The Rock. I don't know if you could see it. It's like The Rock, weird-looking collector art series, The Rock Pop. And my wife got me that. She's so sweet. She just came in and was like, hey, look what I got you. Because it has The Rock. And DJ is the boss, right? And he's over here too. And then Yoda is right there. So that's it for this week's show, my friends. Thanks for checking in. Appreciate everybody. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel. Remember, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll play it on the talk about it on the show. Also, connect with us. Be part of the show. Email podcast@XFL News Hub with your thoughts. Record an MP3. Be famous, like Norman. Or video on your phone. We'll play it on next week's show. You can also, if you don't want to do that whole thing, you can leave us a voicemail. 888-430-7692, extension 3. And watch us live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern for XFL Week in Review, my friends. And the timeline continues 389 days till XFL kickoff, June 18th. XFL Player Combine, which will still, they're not going to be using any of the USFL players because the USFL Championship will be ending around that time. And are these USFL guys going to sign 2-year contracts or 1-year deals like the the CFL? Gosh, sign some guys for more than a year or two. Everybody's on a 1-year deal in the CFL. It's kind of annoying, but that's the economics of the CFL, I guess. And check us out on CFLnewshub.com. All right, my friends, that's it for me. God bless. Thank you all, my friends, for hanging out with me in the chat room live. Thanks for joining the show. Enjoy tomorrow's news on Tuesday with the USFL. I'm sure we will get some good USFL news this week to talk about next week. And check out the Markcast because they have Sam Schwartzstein on the show this week. Should be a lot of fun. That's it for me, folks. Peace, God bless, and I will see you all later.